Okay. Welcome everyone who's slowly trickling in. We have a good number. I think we sold out of this tasting pack of new wines and winemakers this time. We are with, I'm going to give Christopher and Nikos a proper introduction once we have enough people in to make them feel truly appreciated. But I think we saw possibly 1,200 tasting packs, so quite a big number. And I will also be happy to remind those of you whose first time it is on how to open the tasting packs, even though it's pretty simple and straightforward. But I'm currently sitting on top of a white carpet, and that can go very wrong unless you get it right. So welcome. So as people do trickle in, I'm just going to remind you all, although I think a lot of you are firm regulars, and it's already kicked off on the chat room. So down below in the chat room, you join in and tell everyone where you are. Well, we know what you're drinking. Hopefully it's these 6 wines. But I often find that sometimes the most fun, even though everything I say is extremely engaging and interesting, sometimes people are having more fun talking to each other in the chat room. So be sure to get involved down there. And then importantly, over on the right, you have the Q&A option as well. If you want to ask us a question, whether myself or Christopher and Nikos, you can ask any questions in there. So the chat is for general chit chat, and the Q&A is for pointed questions that we should be able to pick apart for you. Okay, 300 guests currently tuning in. I will kick off and introduce 2 new winemakers. This is the new Wines and Winemakers pack. First on the screen to my left anyway is Christopher Löwen, who makes wines with his father Karl Josef in the Mosel Valley in Germany. And once we get started, I'll tell you a bit about how we came across each other. And then Nikos is based in Drama in Greece, and your wines have just gone out the door, Nikos, I think about in the past 1 month. So everyone is fresh, everyone is new. So it's more about celebrating newness at Naked. We obviously everything went a bit crazy during COVID, and now we're able to settle down and give our new winemakers a proper welcome. So Christopher, just in terms of greeting your newfound audience, perhaps you can add anything about yourself that will make them feel more comfortable.
So hi everyone, my name is Christopher Löwen. I'm from the winery Karl Löwen in the Mosel region in Germany. So I'm 31-year-old. I run the winery together with my father. Honestly, nowadays, since February, the owner of the winery. Before 6 years, thanks a lot. I was running it together with my father, and so he's just right now the helping hand in the winery. And yeah, we're doing wines together, and I'm really much looking forward to show you a little bit our philosophy and one of our wines tonight.
Super duper. Thank you very much. And Nikos in Greece, 2 hours ahead, I seem to recall. So you're 10 p.m. So a little bit about yourself to frame it for everyone, please.
Yeah. Hello to everybody. Hi, Christopher. Great to meet you. I'm Nikos Karatzas. I'm from Drama, Greece. I'm a winemaker the last 18 years. I started my activity as a winemaker in Bordeaux, where I studied enology, then in Drama, in a winery that became one of the most known in Greece. And now I'm the founder of Inops, a project that we have the last 6 years, based on indigenous varieties from several cool climate regions from Greece. I will be more than happy to talk about this later.
Absolutely, because your 2 new wines. In fact, I was showing some of your wines to our tech team today, just to sort of also share these new wines and winemakers. And it was just a great privilege to talk about, your loyalty to maintaining those indigenous varieties and championing them, but also making very, very good wines from them. So it's very exciting to have, just to have this newness in the range. Well, it's past 8 o'clock. I personally need a glass of wine, so I'm going to kick off with the first wine. So for those of you, and apologies if this sounds like yeah, as I say before, Blue Peter and simplicity, but just so you don't ruin your carpet, just give it a good snip away from the corner like this, over a table or something like that. Oh God, this isn't the best scissors. And yeah, a pour of the wine like this. Pretty straightforward, not rocket science, but you just want to avoid any calamities because the boxes can fall over, spill, and ruin your carpet. There you go, and you can't sue us. Right, so the first wine, Christopher, is yours. It's from Germany. Now, would you just do us all a favor? I personally am greatly in love with this wine, and actually, and I know I've blown wind up it before, but I'm very proud that Naked Wines is able to distribute your wines, because this is some of the best I've tasted personally over my years of sniffing and spitting. So can you do for everyone at home, where I have to say we're coming out of it. I think we're nearly there, but there's perhaps for some people still this poor perception or misconception about German Riesling being sweet and cheap, and this is the hangover from Liebfraumilch. So can you just sort of put that to bed and then invite them into one of the greatest wines they've ever tasted?
So thanks a lot. Yeah, it's also a pleasure for me that finally our wines now with Naked, and it's a pleasure to me that you selected our wines first. So basically about the history of German wines, there was a great time of German, especially Mosel Riesling, around 1900, and then the German wines got a little bit lost track in there about 40 years ago. And so basically in the mass markets, German got a little bit famous for, as you said, the sweet and cheap wines. So wines like the Liebfraumilch, which was very famous in UK. And in these days, some producers were already realizing that the future can't be high quantity wines for cheap prices. And especially here in Mosel Valley with our very steep vineyards, which means a lot of hand work, and especially with our old vines Riesling, there is a lot more quality potential. And so the generation of my father realized that and started to focus on high quality vines. And so slowly, step by step, the quality in the region and in Germany in total got better. And especially our winery was a winery that focused very early on the dry style of Riesling. So already in the end of 80s, we got famous for making dry wines. The simple reason was that my father just simply loves drinking dry wines.
Good.
And he hated going to festivals, and there was a lot of great sweet wines from Germany, but not so much dry wines. And he personally loved dry wines, so that's what he started to do. And yeah, we focused on that a lot. And yeah, year by year, we got more attention. And nowadays, we are happy that yeah, a lot of people seem to like our style and our wines.
Yeah, and it is, I mean, if people find, let's say, it's important, and that's sort of the benefit I hope that some of these tastings can do, is to help sort of conceptualize or contextualize, I should say, how we taste. And whilst this wine has a fruitiness to it and it's generous and upfront, that's not sweet, that's fruity. And the difference between fruity is, you know, it goes off in your mouth, but then it just goes, and at the end, this actually, I get a bit of a saline, salty, mineral finish. And then sweet is, you know, it's all saccharine, it's all like tin pineapple and that kind of stuff. And that's the difference, fruity versus sweet. So this is a dry wine, great fruitiness. And in terms of Riesling, Mosel Riesling, it's got quite a bit of power to it. And this is the Alter Reben, old vines. And roughly what age are the vines here? I imagine it's a mix of ages, but on average, roughly.
So basically, the youngest vines that we use for our old vines Riesling that you have in the class is 50 years, and it goes up to 70-year-old vineyards. So just to understand how old that is in comparison, so the German and European wine law says that above 25 years old, you can call it already old vines. but we start with 50 years old, calling it old wines, because that's an age where we really see the yields going down, the wines being more concentrated and getting more length. And especially what you described, that the wine has a certain power to it and concentration and length, is for us really important to make great dry Riesling. And another thing that is important, we are talking here about only 11.5 alcohol, but still the wines has length and complexity. And that's the most difficult thing for a winemaker, to make wines that are light in body. So basically you can have a second class with friends and you can just have the wine all over the night without being drunk. But still the wine has a certain complexity and power. And that's what you can achieve with the very old wines, because they get naturally very low yields.
That is a great explanation of old vines. Thank you very much, because we sell other old vines from, you know, Luca Hutchinson in Chile, his Sabbatico, Katie Jones doing her project in the Languedoc, and you've just summarized, what, you know, lower yields but greater power and concentration. But also I think that's really important, because you said 11.5% alcohol. Maybe in other wine regions they sort of have to wait till the grapes achieve phenolic ripeness, basically all the flavors, till all the flavors are there before they can pick it. And for some wines, that might be 13.5, 14%, still talking about white wines. But here you're 11.5%, there's poof, that wine goes off. So it's fantastic. And I want to share with our guests just an idea of the extreme viticulture where you are. So everyone, I'm going to share my screen, and I make apologies, and then equally I make no apologies. It will help if I share some images, couple of seconds, and it just lets you see where things are, and then I'll stop sharing and we go back to this human chat. So bear with me a second. This is it. Okay, share, and then you will appreciate it. You'll thank me afterwards, I promise. Yeah, here we go. So there's you, Christopher. So this is the Mosel, and I'll leave it to you, but the severity of that drop, you know, the aspect is incredible. Can you just tell us how unusual viticulture like that is, grape growing?
So basically, the first person you see, by the way, is my father. The second one is me, 3 years older. And basically, to describe how steep it is, we have, for example, vineyards that you can see on the background behind the forest that are so steep that you really can't stand in the vines. So work with any machines, a tractor or something, for example, is impossible. So it's 100% handwork for these wines. And you see also in the way how the vines are planted, which means 100% handwork. And when you look down to the earth, maybe it's also interesting for you. You see the terroir that we have. So it's called slate, which is a very stony soil, and that also brings the unique character of the Mosel. So that slate brings that, maybe some of you have already felt in the finish. You find something, we wine drinkers like to call it minerality. It's a tough word, but it's something that reminds me on saltiness, or for example, when you have a good cocktail, it's also refreshing in the finish. And that feeling you also get with wines that have that sense of minerality. And that's what you can, in my opinion, only get on a terroir that is stony. It doesn't have to be slate. In Mosel, it would be slate, but in other regions, it's a different kind of stone. But basically, that sensation of minerality you get from a soil that is stony.
I think it's perfect. I think that's it. You get this upfront fruitiness power, but it's almost like a feeling rather than a flavor on the length. You know, you have this energy, this sort of like electricity, this buzz, vibrancy on there, and that's that stony soil. I'm going to show just this one other image, and then we'll pop out of this. But this is an extremely old vine. So can you just tell us what we're looking at that would point out, or even its age, ideally?
Yes, so so this is an even older vineyard. That's our oldest vineyard that is pictured, also available through Naked. It's a vine planted 1896, so 2 centuries ago, amazingly. this vine is probably, or this vineyard is the oldest Riesling vines in the whole world. So very special to us to farm these vines. Imagine 2 world wars have survived that vineyard. And even the first grapes from this vineyard were exclusively imported to the Russian Tsar, which is for me as a young person also crazy, because the Tsar is something like, for me, it feels like 500 years ago, although it's only 130 years ago. And you can imagine from these old vines, you only get very small berries, very concentrated wines. And again, what we have here already on the Alte Reben, just even more. So more concentration, more length, and still with a low alcohol content. Maybe something else that I wanted to say regarding the fruit talk we just had before. So for me, talking about sweet Riesling and dry Riesling, a good Riesling always, in my opinion, has a certain fruity character, which doesn't directly mean sweetness. I always compare it to the example when you eat fruits. You never think of sweetness. For example, when you eat a peach, you don't ask yourself, how much residual sugar does it have? There are some people that more like green unripe peaches, other people like fully ripe peaches, and other like dried peaches. And that's what you can compare with Riesling. When you have a dry Riesling, it's more that peach that is just about to be ripe. So with the freshness in the finish and not overwhelming sweet, but you get a fruity character up front.
Wow, you nailed it. I think I've seen a great deal of appreciation in the chat, people loving this, and it's, anyway, I'm a big fan of this one. And Christopher, you're going to stick around for, I'll just tell our guests at home, we had endeavored to, and we did, send these tasting packs to both Christopher and Nikos, and the world as it is upside down today, things are stuck in customs in different departments, and so they'll have some tomorrow. So alas, they can't taste each other's wines, but those were our intentions. But anyhow, we're going to move on now to wine number 2, and this is from Nikos. And Nikos, while we're opening, clicking, snipping, and pouring, I'm going to just relay to everyone how we came to know each other. So I'll just sort of frame it, and it also sort of gives an idea to some people of how occasionally I find new winemakers. In fact, I don't think I ever did it this way, but because it's a bit unusual, but it was call it desperation, but I persevered. But when we asked our customers about, it was July last year, I think, when it's safe to travel again, where do you want Ray and Matt to go? And top of the list was Greece, and of course Georgia, and I went forth to Georgia. And then we had, strongly after, was Greece, Slovenia, Romania, etc., etc. But Greece was right up there, and I too wanted to bring in great new wines from Greece. And so I had a look at some of the awards that were being won in Decanter. I think you picked up a couple of golds at Decanter World Wine Awards, a wine competition in the UK. And then I went about reading in different articles of who are the talented winemakers, the up and coming, and you seem to feature in a couple of places. And so I didn't know how to contact you. So I think I went via LinkedIn, which actually I rarely use, and I should get much better at using it. And I messaged you through LinkedIn. I think you were on your holidays. We managed a quick call, and then we sort of got back to business at the end of the summer, but just before you were going into harvest. And what I could tell, because you sent me some samples then to sort of see, and what I knew was you had the winemaking talent and the winemaking skill just down to a T. But what we were looking at was a new view of wines, you know, like and I was excited about the anticipation of bringing in something quite different. The white is, which we're going to taste now, does have that fresh and fruity vibrancy, but with Greek varieties which we didn't have. And the red, it just has this sort of subtleness rather than a big powerful red. And that's what I thought is, yes, it's time for Naked Angels to get their chops around something like this. So can you introduce the white, please, Nikos. And then after you've introduced this white, I'll share a map of where you are, and then we'll continue on with the red, please.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Ray, and thank you for our meeting too, and for giving me the opportunity to work with the angels and the naked wines. So starting with the first one, the white, is this one, the Όλα καλά white. Actually, Όλα καλά is a phrase I like to use. It means all is well, all is good. And this one is a blend of Malagousia and Assyrtiko. Both of these varieties, I have to say that we source the grapes from different regions. We are searching for exceptional terroirs and mostly cool climate regions, and growers with that we share the same philosophy of minimal intervention in the vineyards, sustainability. And then in the winery, we try to make every lot to be every plot to be just one lot. So in order to have, you know, the full image of the work that has been done in the vineyard. So in this wine, it's a result of 14 different vinifications. Malagousia is a grape that for many people has some similarities, may have some similarities with Sauvignon Blanc, with Malvasia, depending on the maturity level that it may have.
Yeah.
For me, the style that I like more of Malagousia is to go to this green and this exotic character, and some here you may find also some stone fruit that comes also from the maturity level of Malagousia. And then you have Assyrtiko that people may know mostly from Santorini. It's widely cultivated now in Greece, almost everywhere. And it brings all this freshness, all this this minerality that you may feel at the end, this saltiness that you may feel at the end. In general, Όλα καλά, it's a wine that we may have every day, every time of the day, on its own, like bringing a glass, you know, to get out of a hectic day and come down, or enjoy a glass with a friend or our couple. But it's also what we want to do is to have wines that can match food. For me, wine at the end of the day adds at the table, and it's something that we share with friends and food. So we always try to have structure in the mouth in order to support matching.
And you know, Nikos, there's already a question in the Q&A asking which food would you match your wine with?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. At this phase that the wine is now, I can see easily to go with seafood, to go with salads, wide selection of salads. It can go with cheese, some selection of cheese, Asian food, sushi. You see that you have.
You're just naming every food from around the world, so you need to focus in. No, I agree. It's the seafood.
The thing is that it has a versatility of how can I say, of character.
Yeah.
Because you have, I think it has this complexity that can that helped this.
I don't know if you're frozen, Nikos, but yeah, I agree. And as it happens, I was in Greece earlier this week and had the privilege of tasting very good feta that, you know, you wouldn't recognize back here. And I can see how that can match with that, a little bit of saltiness to it and refreshing. But I think with this, when we were talking, you and I, about before you went into harvest last year, it was just about sort of framing, in a sense, this is going to sound very businessy, but it wasn't the intention. It was like, okay, what's the objective of the wine? And it was the refreshment. You know, when you come home from work and work just hasn't been treating you so well, you just wanted a bit of escapism, something fresh, fruity, crisp, with a little bit of vibrancy then to take you into dinner. And sometimes wines they're just there for that pure happiness sense. And I think Ola Kala has that sort of happy, they'll just throw the world away, throw the day away and enjoy it. So why don't I just quickly frame where in Greece you are and where in the world you are. So one moment, please, everyone, while I once again share my screen. Why won't this one work for me now? I'll have to go back. Here we go. It's just decided to move down there. And here, let's see, does that work? Okay, so here we are in Greece. And I think when a lot of people, when they think of Greece, they might think of course, Athens and then all the islands. But here we are right up on the Bulgarian border and North Macedonia, Albania. So, and then the following will show us, yeah, you are, this is Thessaloniki, and then you're in Drama. And perhaps, I think you said for the white wine, the grapes come from basically from Thrace and from all the way around Macedonia, all the way around Greece. But the red wines, your red wine is coming from Florina, Veria, Mount Olympus. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. And then this is for Xinomavro that we are going to taste later. And Mavroudi comes from Thrace.
Here on the right.
The area from Komotini and up to the Dimotiko that you see there.
Yeah, okay. So two different grapes from the other side of the region here. And so basically, how do you, I'm going to stop sharing, but do you simply drive around, seek out the vineyards, identify them as great potential, work with a grape grower, and then bring in the fruit all at harvest? Because that's quite a distance to be sourcing different wines.
Ray, you have to take in consideration that Greece is not a big country, actually. Talking about viticulture, I would say it's a big Napa, a big Bordeaux. It's Greece, but it's Greece. It's a small country.
Yeah.
For example, the whole area that you just shown, for me is maximum from Drama to Thrace, it's 2.5, 3 hours driving. For Florina, that's too far away, 2.5 hours of driving. For Thessaly, it's another 3 hours of driving. So I would say the maximum that I have to drive is 3 hours. The thing is, when we started this project of FinOps, I had to have to be very close to the grower in order, to synchronize the way we see the vineyard to understand each other. So the first years it was around 50,000 kilometers per year. Now it's better; it's around 30,000 kilometers and much more, under control. You can go to see French also, but it needs a lot of work.
Yeah, you've invested quite a lot in your vision. I mean, just when we talk, you often conceive just the idea of you won't be moved, you won't budge. You're quite determined on your vision, is what I get from you, and getting the respect with the growers. I think you said this year was quite a difficult year in terms of crop for some of them, but you wanted to pay them as if it was the full amount, and so that loyalty, that is sustainability. Socio-economic sustainability, working with your partners, the growers, more so than, let's say, the environmental side of it. So that's very admirable, and I think we do that a lot at Naked as well. So you're very welcome into the fold. Thank you so much. Shall we try the red?
Sure.
Okay, so I need to find my next pack, and perhaps you could just remind us of the two different grape varieties in here, and explain what you should expect from them.
Great. So the Ola Kala red is this one.
Yeah.
Well, in the discussion we had about this wine, the idea is to offer to angels a summer wine with character, based on Greek indigenous varieties. So the two varieties are Xinomavro. Xino, actually, this is two words in one. Xino means acidic acidity, and Mavro means black, structure, tannic.
Yeah.
And then Lignona, which is a very, again, noble variety. This wine is, for me, is a wine that it's not the typical style of wine like a Syrah, Cabernet. It's not something that you can find in any other wines. If I have to say something, I would say to a Pinot Noir or something this like a style, because it has a lot of freshness, a lot of acidity. There is a lot of fruity character, but at the same time, you see that in the mouth there are some beautiful layers that are surrounded with some tannins because of the Xinomavro that provides the wine again this opportunity to be a great match for food. But again, an easygoing wine.
Anything going wine. Yeah, no, this one definitely is. And people in the chat room have just been throwing up. I'm not able to follow all of it, but talking about cherries, spice, lots of spice, and yeah, Pinot Noir in a style, and then even some more unusual ones like Zweigelt and so on. So this was the one where I think I said to you, Nikos, that I'm pretty sure that this might not appeal to everybody, but those who slow down and think about it will slowly get to appreciate a wine that isn't just full-bodied in power and dark fruits. The last wine we have in this tasting is a Rastau. It's from Dennis Crespo. It's Syrah Grenache Mourvèdre from the Southern Rhone, 15% alcohol, and it's very good, organic, beautifully made, but it is just this sort of dark, ripe style. And I think if I have one duty as the wine guy for Naked is I've recognized that that's a very popular style, but then it's just to steer people into like, have a look at this and have a look at that. You're welcome to go back to it, but this is the world, this is the beautiful world of wine that's out there. And to just experience it, to voyage to these places, and like we have now talking with you, tasting these wines, just 100 mils, I think that is really, well, I'm a geek, but I think that's really living by just sort of experimenting, tasting, and then moving on. And not everyone's, but I think it's delicious. I think the vibrancy, the red currant, the red cherry, it's refreshing in its style. This one, food matching, what would you say here?
I would say I would love this wine with light barbecue because of all this freshness that we discussed.
Yeah,
and also Far East cuisine, Asian cuisine again.
Asian cuisine, yeah, very good. I think a bit of soy for the umami character go along with it, because it has a bit of, it's not tannic, but it has a bit of a, someone said there, musty, dusty, it has a bit of a chalkiness, like the palate. There's a bit of grip. You don't feel it in your gums, you feel it on your tongue. And that just sometimes with soy sauce, the saltiness, it sort of clicks in with that, and it makes it, actually makes it sweeter. Yeah. So that's delicious. And then just on your two wines, and I know you're just joining us for this short moment talking about your two wines, and then Christopher's coming back in and he's going to have a big opinion on wines that he isn't tasting. So we're looking forward to that. But of these two wines, when should people, how long do you think they can last? The white is a light, fresh white wine, but the red, is this a sort of 18-month wine, 24 months, 2 years?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, Ola Kala is the first year we have them. So it will not be very easy for me to answer that question. On the other hand, both Ola Kala, white and red, are cousins to wines that like the Apla family that we have in Inops. So we were very happy this summer that Francis Robinson, for example, tasted the cousins of these two wines, some of the same plots.
So Jancis Robinson is a UK very famous and she's UK wine critic, but internationally regarded. Yeah. So she tasted your wines. Yeah.
She tasted the wines of an earlier vintage, and she wrote some great things about it and how fresh they seem and how complex they are. So in general, this is very encouraging. And having said that, we follow the lots of the other wines, and I can tell you that they are aging for 2-3 years, as you said, in different characters. For example, the white, the more the time is going through this, mineral and stone fruit, and less to this green or exotic character that you may find still. The red, it keeps the fruit, but the more spicy character and oil comes out.
Yeah, very good. And I think, yeah, the sort of acidity and energy of this wine, in 2 or 3 years, it will be different, but it'll be delicious. And I think it will still have freshness. And but I'm afraid I don't think I'm going to be able to age mine because I like to drink it. So, but anyway, if you buy it, and we'll have next vintage to follow. Let me just see if there's a couple of questions here for you. So the first one was from John Scott. Organic, is this right? Okay, I think there was a bit of an issue. I think, John, with your first Riesling, and if that is the case, we'll give you another one. You just let us know. We'll take care of that because mine was looking excellent, and I've tasted 3 of these packs to make sure the quality control was okay. So it sounds like it might be enough one. Taffy O'Reilly, do any of these wines come in bigger size bottles than 750 ml? We don't have them currently. If I'm to think of Christopher's wines, Riesling bottles in Magnum, that would be even taller, and I don't know if they'll fit in our boxes. We're already pushing it, getting it's 35 centimeters, I think, into it. So I'm going to say for the time being, Taffy, no, not for now. You just have to buy 2 or 3. And Anne is asking, Ray, we recently had a 2015 Aramas Agaston Armenian red at a local Croatian restaurant. Any plans for Naked to buy from Armenia? Yes. Well, yes, no. I tasted great Armenian a wine I really liked. I tasted it in March in Austria, coincidentally. It was at a Master of Wine seminar, and I thought that was good. And then I arranged a meeting at a big German wine fair called ProWein, and I met and I tasted it again. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's good. And I was progressing it till I asked for more samples to come over here and then taste it. And thereafter, they didn't stand up, I'm afraid. Also, the people weren't very nice. And so I decided, okay, we're probably not the right match. So I'm continue to be on the case for you, Anne, but I just gave you guts and all of the latest travails. So to be continued. Andrew's asking, why has there been so little Greek wine in the UK to date? Feels like it's up to Naked to lead the charge. Would you concur, Nikos? Are you familiar? I mean, you did have some wine in the UK, Greek wine, but in general, do you feel that there isn't so much export of Greek wine to the UK? Is that a case, or do you have other markets where Greek wine is more popular?
I think that we are getting in a time that Greek wine has its time, and it's becoming more and more popular, also in the UK market, as well as in other markets. It's a result of different parameters that came all together. We became better. We started working with ourselves and our varieties. In Greece, there has been a lot of time where people were working a lot within the national varieties.
Yeah. That's like Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz, and so on, like that. So not the local stuff, but stuff you can get everywhere.
For people, for our friends that may not know, Greece has over 300 indigenous varieties known. Of course, there has been a lot of that we don't know, but we have 300 varieties known and cultivated, indigenous. So there is a great challenge for us to explore this potential. And I believe this the more we exploring these varieties, the best wines are to come, and this is something that is well appreciated by the export market.
I think that's it. I think you summed it up well. Yeah. And everyone should be true if they can. In order for them to be respectful and to keep the indigenous grape varieties, they need customers in the UK, USA to buy the wines. So it's okay. It's all good if you try and keep them. And if no one wants to buy them, it won't work. So the more we open our mind to these wines, the more you will be able to preserve them. One last question very quickly, Nikos. Your wine chilled? Do you serve your wine chilled, the red wine? Or...
Fantastic question. I really like it chilled. I really enjoy it chilled. I would say like 14 degrees, for example, will be beautiful.
Very good. I think that says Trish. It's all sort of numbers and so on. But Trish asked the question, so thank you for that.
It's a great question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Are there any winery trips you recommend? Okay, we're gonna have to. I tell you what. There's a question there for Nikos. Where people mention are there any wineries you would recommend? Robert, I'm sorry to be a bore, but actually, Nikos, can you answer Robert's question on your wall? Because we must move on to the next wine. So you can just type, and the question from Robert, Nikos, was, can you recommend any wineries in Greece? So maybe pick 3 areas, and maybe you can just do a post on your wall. And if you need myself or Laura to help you with that, that would be great.
I will do that on the wall, on Naked Wines.
On Naked Wines, on your wall, exactly.
I will certainly do that. So,
yeah. Sorry about that.
I would like to thank you. A lot sorry that I will not be able to join you for the whole Zoom tonight. I have to be in 5 hours again in the winery. So excuse me and enjoy the rest of the tasting. All the best.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Take care. Okay, well, we will move. Boom. We're going to move to wine number 4, which is Tempranillo from Rioja Alavesa. Christopher, I'm going to bring you back in. That's if you're still engaged, you're still interested. This is, I'll tell you about it, and then you can contribute as you see fit or ask questions if you like. But this is from a winemaker, Tao Platon, who we introduced. Actually, he's not so much a new winemaker. This is more a new wine. His Rioja Reserva has been in your baskets, everyone's baskets, as a free sample this month. Possibly still there. And what I wanted to show with this wine, this is the sort of stepping stone wine. So others might call it entry level, but actually it punches way above entry level. It's 100% Tempranillo, no oak, unlike his beautiful 95% rated Crianza, and then his Reserva. Both of those are well married with oak, and they're subtle, but you still get the fruit. This is just pure, raspy pomegranate juice, real beautiful concentration of fresh red fruits. But allow me one moment so I can just give you a framing of where he is, and it will help me to explain why this tastes as energetic, pure, fresh, vibrant as it does. So we go back to sharing the screen. This is wine number 4, and here we go. So it's from Rioja, and Rioja is, if you can see my mouse, I'm just going to point up that way. That is Bilbao up there, 1.5 hours. This is an area called Navarra, that over there in the white, and down that way, 2.5 hour drive is Madrid. Okay, so you're up in the northerly part. Rioja as a whole is made up of Rioja Orientale, and here on the right. Then you have Rioja Alta, and then Rioja Alavesa is up here, surrounded here on the periphery by the Sierra Cantabria mountains. And it is those mountains and it is this very high altitude that makes this wine so vibrant. And it's what makes this Rioja and Tao's Riojas different to most Riojas. Okay, so plenty of other producers will be sourcing, like Marqués de Riscal and other wineries that you might be familiar with. They will have grapes from here, grapes from down here, and they'll have some grapes from Rioja Alavesa. But these guys are focused, Tao's purely focused up here in Rioja Alavesa, sourcing wine from 300 different vineyards, great growers. It's a massive work, preserving these very, very old vines, 80 years old to 100 years old. And just to give you an image, Rioja is one of the most spectacularly beautiful wine regions, and there are many. In fact, Mosel is one of those as well. Burgundy, when the colors start to change in winter. But have a look at these vines, okay? So they're on a sandy soil versus Christopher's slate soil, and the sandy soil, it's dry pretty much most of the time. You know, it'll start to rain actually around now, October. But they're on individual, they're not trained. For the images we saw, I can just go back quickly, actually, can't I? Push. Here, the wines are trained on stakes, single stakes. In other wine regions, I'm about to show you a video actually from Josh, and you'll see that they're on lines like this, on trellises. But here they are, this is goblet, like it's standalone vines, okay? And they really do not give off many bunches of grapes. So people have to bend over, crouch down, and pick the grapes. So it's a lot of work, but the quality of these vines is amazing. And so, and it's an expansive area. And if you see the sort of the peppering of vineyards all around, if you can find, let me see, where's my bloody house? There we go. So I'm over here on the left with the mouse, and I'm just going to move over here to the right into the mountains. And you see they're just sort of tucked in everywhere. It's all these little corners, and Tao is driving around and working with all of these different growers to secure the fruit. All these trained differently and everything. And this is what we have. It's amazing. So I think I'm just going to stop that share so you get back to it. So now, what does it taste like? And then I want to tell you about the whole project there. So, it is such happy juice. I often go on about how much I love Beaujolais, just for its, you know, lack of oak, just purity, generosity, happy, fruity pizza wine. And this is a sort of a perfect Tuesday night pizza wine. The Crianza became my house red. I think it's $10.99 for Angels. That became a house red just for its sort of, you know, ease, but quality as well. And then this one just comes with a bit more sort of vibrancy, a bit more party about it. So, but what you get in this Tempranillo versus, you know, even Carlos or other producers is the whole, the length, the full power of it. You know, it's not a heavy wine. It's all red fruits, not black fruits, but it just gives off a lot of energy. And Christopher, are you familiar with wines of Rioja? Do you get to taste them up in Germany much?
Honestly, not so much. I had a few, and I really love the tension and the concentration that it normally has. And it's really, like you said, a perfect wine for, honestly, funny wise, very often Italian food. Yeah, I think it's one of the really, it's one of the big old regions, of course, but it's, as it is quite big, also a region where you can always find great upcoming growers.
That's it. I think you're right. The Tao and the team that work around him, Andreas and Sam, their philosophy is making wines, instead of making wines of style, they're making wines of place. And what they mean by that is, we are all familiar with Rioja Crianza, Rioja Reserva, which they have, but they feel that sometimes people, you know, push the oak, where the oak sort of sucks in the fruit too much, and what you're tasting actually is like licking a plank, and it's just pushed too far that way. And in fact, everything starts to taste the same then. That producer, that producer, that producer. But it's good because if you're a customer, you know, you like Rioja Reserva. If you pick one up, it'll taste a bit like the one you had last week, which you liked. And that's a good offering. It doesn't create any excitement, but, you know, how are you supposed to know all of these labels you're in a supermarket or well, wherever you shop? And so what they wanted to do was take a step back out. It says, no, this is the best vineyards, 300 different vineyards. And we want you to be able to taste the stuff, the work, the actual true place of it. And this is something I wanted to tell everyone about. So pause and give me your full attention for a moment. Their whole philosophy is around sustainability. And again, I think I talked about it before, sustainability, as we all know, isn't only about environmental. It's about the different pillars, the socio and the economic and so on. And that is what these guys are working on. So I mentioned 300 different vineyards. they could, Tao and Andreas and the team could go out and actually buy up, these 5 and that 5 and this, and then, own these vineyards. But if they did that, they would be buying the land off these owners who are typically slightly older. And then the owner would get the income one-off, but then there's sort of nothing else for that owner to do in that area. And that would happen to the next neighbor and the next neighbor. And slowly but surely, you would see these beautiful little villages that when you're driving around northern Spain or any part of Spain, you'd see with these communities with a bakery and whatever, they'd sort of shut down because the younger generation takes off to Madrid or abroad, and they're trying to do the inverse, the opposite. And so in fact, what they do is to make it economic for them. If, for example, a kilo of grapes is 80 cents per kilo, which believe me is not a lot, they say, we'll pay you 120 and, but let's work together on the farming. But by paying them 120 per kilo, so a significant increase, the grower is able to at least even convince their offspring to come back from the universities down in Madrid and come back into the community, and is to rebuild the community so that these old vines, this whole area, can rebirth and keep going. And personally, I think that is that aligns so much with what we want to do at Make It. And just by going a little bit further and deeper into the people around the wine, rather than just buying bottles of wine, we want to know who contributes in, like the last one we're going to come to, Dennis and the cooperative, which I'll save it, I'll tell you about it, but what he has done for that whole community because of the orders we've put in, because of the wine you guys have been buying, is incredible. And so it's just about sort of beyond the wine, beyond the bottle is the way to think about it. And that is what Tao is doing with this Tempranillo, his Crianza, his Reserva. So when you are thinking about what you want to buy, that is what you're actually buying into. I'm going to come up for air now, and then I'm going to have a sip of wine. So excuse me a moment. I won't spit that. That's lovely. So let me see. We've got a question here from Lada. Why is the Rioja so called when the grape is Tempranillo? So Rioja is the region, and if you want to say that it comes, it has to legally come from that area so that you can put Rioja on the label. It's like a badge of authenticity, traceability. And then Tempranillo is the grape, but Tempranillo is the grape for a Rioja like this. Tempranillo is the same grape for Olin, for the Crianza, and for the Reserva. Tempranillo is the grape the whole way through. They add in a couple of other Graciano, but Tempranillo is the name of the grape, and Rioja is the name of the region. That's it. And Gavin, how long has the Rioja spent in oak? 0. This is concrete and concrete tanks. So what they're going for here is just, this is the sort of, in fact, it started out as a cosechero, they call it. Cosechero is where it's what the sort of the farmer, and I don't want to be in any way derogatory when I say a peasant wine, but it is that sort of, it is those who farmers, grape growers would grow their grapes, sell them off and keep a little bit for themselves, make it at home. And there was no airs and graces about it. And they would drink it from, a tube like this. And it was fruity, and it was just made for that vintage. And this is sort of where this started out, but the wine just got, well, it's just better and better, but that's the philosophy. It's sort of no bells and whistles, no pepper and spice from the oak. It's just the grapes. That's just what you're tasting. So no time in oak. And Jeff you'll buy some tonight. Great stuff, Jeff. And Jeff is back again. Would like larger tasters, 125 or 150, and happily pay more. Easier to appreciate flavors and food pairing there. Yeah, I get you. And we were on 5. We had 5 tasting packs of 125, I think. But I think we just wanted to show more and introduce people to more. So noted, alas, we've done it. And I think we're okay with this 100 for now. Bon, we will move on to the next wine number 5, which is a wine from Josh Pfeiffer. If any of you were on our tasting tour, Christopher, you're not able to make it this time, but you're going to join us sometime for our tasting tour, are you?
I hope so. When will it take place?
Well, we have one in summer, and then we have one in winter. And it's good fun. And the other winemaker, I mean, it's great to meet the angels and then hang out and talk and show your wines, and they ask lots of questions, but also then hanging out with the winemakers as well. And The food quality isn't great. The sleep is very poor. The travel is on an unair conditioned bus, but other than that, it's great. Honestly, yeah. No, Laura, who hosts this evening's tasting, actually is the host, and the food is excellent, and the travel and the accommodation is wonderful. Laura, I take it all back. It's a journey. So we move on to wine number 5, but Josh Pfeiffer joined us from Australia, and hopefully some of you got to meet him. But he is just the epitome of that, you know, young, independent winemaker. Where Naked, he started working with Naked Australia, because, you know, we're Naked USA, we're in Australia and the UK, and we all tie up together. And then we were lucky to bring his wines in, and he's just a good egg, just really down to earth. And I asked him for a couple of clips, some images, because it didn't work for him to join this evening, and he sent me a WhatsApp video. So I put that onto this doc. So would you bear with me, open wine number 5, have a sip, and he's going to talk you through the vineyard. It lasts about 50 seconds, but trust me, you'll be bought into the world of Josh once you watch this. Let's go here, and you know, it's technical, so it probably won't work. So just sorry, I'll show you first of all where he is. We're in South Australia, so this is Adelaide in here, South Australia. Here is the Barossa, where some of our great wines, Darrell Groom and Giles Cook, Gilo, make wines. And down here, right down here, is the Limestone Coast. This is Coonawarra, where we had Penley Estate. Some of you might have been in the Fine Wine Club. I would have tasted that wine, Penley Estate. Also, Nina Stocker has a wine coming from Coonawarra. So that's typically known for 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, some Shiraz as well. But here in Limestone Coast, well, Josh is going to explain what makes it so special. This map was from Wine Folly. Right, let's see if this works. Fingers crossed.
Langhorne Creek, for those of you who don't know, it's basically directly east from Adelaide by about an hour. From the Barossa, it's about an hour and a half south, or nearly 2 hours south of the Barossa. So different climate, different soil. It has a lot more influence from the ocean. We're probably only about 20 or 30 kilometres from the ocean here. So it's a bit more Mediterranean climate-wise, and the soils are really alluvial. Langhorne Creek itself is a bit of a floodplain, really, and in wet years, these vineyards go under. You can see here, I'm in a Shiraz block. The fruit's looking really, really good. Very fresh, very vibrant, and a couple of weeks behind the Barossa.
Good on you. Nice one. So there you go. I mean, straight from the horse's mouth, pretty much repeated exactly what I just said before, but you know exactly where we are now. And here now with this wine, just to give you my perception of it, how it is, and please share in the chat how you determine how you sort of appreciate the wine. Here we've turned up the power. We've moved on from Nikos's sort of red fruit, vibrant, raspy style of red wine. We're into a bit more body depth. I get a little bit of eucalypt character, blackberry, plum, and maybe black cherry. So it's just all those dark fruits, baked as well, but it's so smooth. And that's the style, the profile he's going for. Versus his Barossa, which is just come in, I think, and that is a bit bigger, a bit bolder, maybe a bit darker. But this is sort of, you know, like the Tempranillo we just had. It's, you know, it's soft and easy drinking. It's just on that darker, ripe fruit profile, if that's your style. So let me see. Hello again, Aaron. On sustainability, I'm going to take a question because, and please add any questions if you have for this wine, and we will follow on then with Rastau, the sixth wine. So on sustainability, very impressed with the planet-friendly bottle from Geyer and Gimbel Gin. Is there a plan to roll this out? Unless you're talking about, because we do sell and we are the distributor of that Geyer and Gimbel gin, and it is being rolled out. So it's available. I think maybe Kira or Simon, you might be able to stick that in the chat room, somewhere like that. So a link to it. But if you mean, shall we be doing more of it? Absolutely. I don't know yet, but the intention is we're very happy. They're happy. The customers are happy. So, you know, a continuation of lighter bottles is definitely the plan. We have already removed a significant amount of CO2 output and tonnage through light weighting. So using, from the same producer, just using lighter weight glass. And we've done that across our range, and we're going to continue to do that. So that's definitely the plan. Okay, I'm going to now move on to our last wine, but this is really knockout stuff. So you all know Dennis Crespo. He's also been on tour plenty, but he's based in the south of France, in the southern Rhone, generally in a place called Quirin, which is not far. I'm going to show you quickly where it is, but really not far from Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So there he's working with grapes like Grenache, Syrah, which is Shiraz, and Mourvèdre. And this then is this is an organic wine. And actually, Christopher, I think about it and then I forget about it, but are you guys organic or farming organically with intention, or where are you in terms of that in the vineyard?
So basically, we are not certified organic, but we are farming organically. Just there is one spot that we are not hitting the organic rules, and that's the usage of our sprays. So basically, when you're organic in our region in Mosel Valley, you have to spray copper to harvest some grapes. And the problem with copper is that it stays in the soil, so it's not washed out or so, and also the animals can work with it, so it stays in the soil and gets more and more by year if you're farming organic. And that's the reason why we don't want to use copper, and that's the reason why we are not able to be certified organic.
That's a very interesting concept, because I think, as a customer, a consumer of any goods, food and anything I buy, if you see a wine or a product, whether it's cheese or whatever it is, as organic, it gives you a sort of a cue of attention to detail, care, and so on. But the nuances behind that, there's sort of gives and takes, isn't there? And your example is very interesting, that not all is great about them, and there are compromises. And of course, very important to note, and I'm sure people know this, but maybe it's worth just me reminding everyone, is that, the world is massive, but the great growing regions, tonight we've been tasting wine from Germany. That's quite, relatively speaking for winemaking, quite far north from the equator. We went to Spain, and then we went even lower to Greece, and then we went to Australia. And all of these climates, influences, coastal winds, and so on, all of these things will determine how you farm organically, how you farm sustainably. So we do need that badge of reassurance that says this is organic, this is sustainable, but actually we also need to be conscientious of what is that, basically give the grape grower, the winemaker, the benefit of the doubt that they're actually going to do the right thing after all. Yeah.
So basically the problem is that the rules for being organic or not is everywhere in the world, for every growing region completely the same. But of course, the climate is completely different. The varieties that you work is different. For example, in Mosel, we have 600 liters of rainfall in the vegetation, which is 3 times of what you have in Spain in the vegetation. And so it's a big difference in farming. And that's a little bit what I claim a little bit to the Organic Association, that they don't make rules following to the weather and the climate that you have. It's just one basic rule, doesn't matter if you farm vines in Spain or in Germany. And so that makes it a little bit difficult in some areas, and in some areas it's easier to follow the rules.
Yeah, it is, alas, and I don't want to have a go after them, but it is, alas, where bureaucracy trumps sense and sensibility of the environment. And that's a pity, because everyone is after the same rainbow. Everyone wants to do the right thing, protect the planet and protect their vines, get healthy vines, healthy soils. But when you have to follow a rule book, you start to go, oh man, I'm just going to do this myself. I think so many of our winemakers actually farm with organic practices, but don't go for the certification, either because they don't agree with the regulation, the paperwork that's involved, and other those elements, So I'm quite happy that we're sort of taking care of it in our own way. Yeah.
And I think if you just think yourself you would be a farmer, I think the biggest thing that every farmer, not only winemakers, all in the world own is their land. And so everyone is interested to farm their land in a way that the next and the next and the next generation
Yeah, it's an
have
asset.
better land. So it's always in our interest to make our soil and our land even better. And so
Absolutely. Yeah, it's more than just this year's sale of 1 bottle or 10 bottles of wine. It's an asset that you're trying to preserve and pass on. It makes sense. I'm going to go to this wine 6. Kira or Laura, I know I'll get in trouble for only asking you this now, but whilst I'm talking about this wine and sharing a bit about it, perhaps you could prepare a poll in the background to ask everyone if we had a preference over wine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I will declare that all wines are created equal. Some wines are created more equal than others, but we will just see what the preference. It'd be good to get a read of the room. So whilst you're building that, and if you can't do it, you can put something in the Q&A just to let me know that I've absolutely put you on the spot, and I'll apologize. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I just want to show you where Dennis is. That is Crespo for this next one.
Hang on, Craig,
we've
for
had you,
those-
Josh, and we want this one. Okay, so if you can see this, it's not the most beautiful of maps, but we're in the south of France, and where my mouse is here, over on the left-hand side, down here, Avignon, Palais des Papes, where the Pope lived in, I think, the 1400s, maybe 1100s, and then above that is Châteauneuf-du-Pape, a very famous wine region, also based Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, and generally those are the grape varieties, the legal grape varieties around here. Above here, you have Kiran, not in very large print, but where I'm circling, and Kiran is where Dennis is based, and the cooperative, Cave de Kiran, it's a cooperative where he has helped regenerate that region with jobs, the grape growing, the facility, all in the workers in the winery, and the stories. Well, he's told you those stories himself in his emails and on his wall. But really, I really encourage you to follow Dennis Crespo on his wall. He does a great job of sharing those stories. And here, just up above, is Rasteau, and that's the wine we're tasting here. And these areas, these villages, Plan de Dieu, Kiran, Sablé, Rasteau, they were originally, I won't go into the whole bureaucracy, the legal labeling of it all, but they were they didn't have the status today that they do today, even 10 years ago. They were Coteron Village, and say Coteron Village Rasteau, Coteron Village Kiren, and now they have improved and gone on to establish their own appellation recognition. Just down here on the right, I hope you can see that, if I move that out of the way, is the grapes. We got 50% Grenache, 20% Syrah and Mourvedre. The age of the vines, 20 to 40 years old. It's packing a punch at 15% alcohol, and then 32 hectares per liter, and the vintage is 2020. So that is that. But now I'm just going to give you a quick, in terms of how I interpret this wine, and see if you agree, and if you're tasting with others, share what you think. That comes to the time where I can't really pick up much. That is a warm comfort blanket, no doubt. Of course, the alcohol gives a little bit of that sweetness and warmth, but in general, you're looking at a baked plum pie, against some of that sweet cerise, what you call it, Morello cherry for Black Forest Gâteau, liqueur cherry, a bit of spice, fennel as well, thyme on the finish, and but it's so well knit. This is organic. We were just talking about it, and this was a free sample not so long ago, but it's a new wine to complement all of Dennis's wines, but it's full power. And I mean, I think this is one you're probably going to have hanging around your house as we go into the cold winter months. If you have to turn off the radiator, you'll save money by drinking this wine to keep you warm, but drink responsibly. I'm going to see if we have any more questions, contributions. It may well be that a poll might not be possible. So perhaps I think you're going for it already in the chat room. Perfect. And we can perhaps already determine what are the most favorite wines. I'm going to let everyone else share their views, but well, probably Christopher, because it's just you still left on the call, I'm going to say my favorite was your wine, but you know, I'm a huge fan, and yeah, Riesling all day, every day. And actually, if you go look, and Christopher, you can have a look as well in the chat section down below. If you click on that, one comes up, you know, in the lineup, it's pretty much one in many cases. Now there's a lot of chat in there, but anyway, it featured extremely well, and so proud to have it in there. So we will wrap it there, folks. I hope you enjoyed those. Of course, that was just 100 mils. Oh, here we go. Yeah, before we now, Christopher, that I'm afraid we're big into sort of votes and elections at the moment here in the UK. We can't make our minds up, but I verge on saying that is a landslide, and delighted.
So that I am still online, huh? They want to be friendly to the Germans.
No. You know, what I appreciate about our customers is they are honest. They are very friendly, but I think they're honest before friendliness, and I think that's more important. And you will see on some of your comments on the wall, not everyone's going to like the wine, because we can't always, there's 6 very different wines there. It's impossible that everyone would like them all. Look, I think it speaks for itself, that wine, Christopher, the intensity, concentration, power. It's a dry Riesling, Alleluia, and the age of the vines. And it was a brilliant show. So thank you for joining us, Christopher. It was great to have you on. And yeah, it would be great to see you in the UK sometime soon. And you have 2 other wines. This is your sort of middle for the 3 that we take at Naked. The Quant, which is below, that is a little more fruity towards Swedish style, and then your top wine is, as you said, just a bit more power even than this Alta Riva. And these wines age forever. They age and they age. So if you can sit on them, they just get so beautiful after 5 years, 8 years, 12 years. Trust me, when I passed the Master of Wine 1 or 2 years ago at about midday or maybe 11 a.m., I went and I opened a bottle of Gerd Stepp. He's in the Pfalz, but it was a 2014, his Kalkstein Riesling. And even that, so that was 6 or 7 years old, and it was just fantastic. And I just went straight into drinking German Riesling for the rest of the day. So I encourage everyone to buy and age. It is my gift to you, the top tip, buy and age German Riesling. It's the best. But we'll wrap it there, folks. Thank you for attending and joining, and I hope you enjoyed the wines. And then, of course, you know, get involved and be sure to comment on the walls of all of our winemakers as well. Have a good evening and take care. See you all.
Thanks a
Cheers,
lot.
Christopher. Thank you. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Cheers.